Guys, so this week is my 50th video, which is kind of crazy, to think that I've done 50 videos since I started. It feels like I haven't done that much, but when I actually look through the list of all of the videos I've done, it's quite a bit. And, I was looking, and I'm filming this video ahead of time, so I don't know if I will have hit the 100 subscriber mark by the time this video comes up, but I'm getting very close, so it's kind of a big deal. I mean, I guess it's a big deal just because we've decided that the numbers 150 are important and stuff, but it's kind of one of those marks for me, similar to when my Hindu mythology video hit 1,000 views. It was sort of a mental hurdle that told me something you are doing is right, because clearly there are people who are willing to listen to you talk into a camera about poetry and books and random things you find interesting. So, thank you guys for that. Now, for those of you who do primarily follow me for the prose and the poetry and the lessons, this video isn't going to have too much more for you. I was trying to think of a good way to do a 50th video, and I realized that I never really tell you guys much about myself and what's going on in my life. I'll sort of refer to it, but I've never really said anything directly about, what I do outside of this channel, aside from a couple of the videos where I've rambled about my life and, shown you the things on my desk and in my room. So what I decided to do is I'm going to do a 25 random things about me, and my hopes are that for those who are curious, particularly the small group of you who do watch every single video I put out, which there is a small group of you, and thank you. I mean, it means a lot. But so for those of you who are actually interested in what I have to say about my own life, you can learn a little bit more about me. And for those of you who just am curious about my opinions on poetry and prose, I will see you guys next week for that. But here are 25 random things about me. Firstly, I go by Turk, and I don't know if I've referred to myself as such in past videos. I think that's what I called myself in the sock exchange video, but that's just what I've always been called online. When I would, join forums, I would use the name Turquoise Dog, and people would call me Turk, and it just sort of caught on. So, number 2, the origin of the username Turquoise Dog. So, when I was 9, I had a small obsession with the movie Spy Kids and the whole idea of secret agents, and so in my, at school, at recess, I made a sort of secret agent organization, and I decided that every person in this organization had a spy name that consisted of their favorite color and their favorite animal. So mine was Turquoise Dog, and soon after that I made my first email address, which is the email address that I use, the Gmail account. So I ended up kind of stuck with it, and because I had it attached to that email address, and because I still used it, I figured I just continued to use the same username rather than having to remember different usernames for different sites. Alright, number 3, I have studied and worked in the field of psychology Right now I'm working with special needs kids. I don't want to really give anything too specific, but that's what I'm doing for a living right now. And I do want to at some point go to graduate school, but that's still sort of up in the air. So, just so you know my background. Number 4, and I'm not just looking over off into the distance, I've written this down on my computer. Number 4. So when I was a kid, I wasn't really into typically like girly things. I wasn't into like pretty dresses and, I don't know, makeup or doing your hair or anything like that. So for every birthday and Christmas, I would get stuffed animals from family, from friends who couldn't figure out what else to get me. I'd get just stuffed animals constantly, and that's why I have so many. I have a lot now, mostly because they're stuffed animals that I never quite got rid of. 5, going off of that, I can be a very sentimental person, and it makes it hard to get rid of things, particularly stuffed animals, and I'll sometimes joke that I come from the Toy Story generation. Those of you who are also around my age will sort of get it. When you're a kid, you watch Toy Story 1 and you see Andy playing with his toys. Then when you grow up a little bit, you're growing out of your toys, Toy Story 2 comes out. Then finally, when you're in college, Toy Story 3 comes out and you see Andy giving away his toys to some kid and feeling fulfilled that he's getting to actually give them away to a kid who can play with them. And that's sort of where I'm at, where I don't want to give my stuffed animals away to Goodwill because I have that sort of attachment, so I've been slowly giving them away to my younger cousins. And I mean, they appreciate them, so there you go. Let me see, where am I? Number 6. I get really excited when little things happen on this channel. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like, I try to respond to every comment that I get, whether on YouTube itself or on Reddit or on Facebook or whatever. And it takes some getting used to getting actual feedback. I've gotten actual messages from people making requests, and any sort of feedback, I end up just sort of sitting there and just going, oh yay, I have a response, or oh yay, someone really liked this, and I don't know, it's really sweet. I think it's gonna take me a long while to actually get used to it, but that's just kind of how I am. Number 7. So for most of my life, I had my hair down to my waist. And I know that's kind of hard to imagine, but at the shortest, it had been like around the shoulders, just because I always had long hair. And I cut my hair this short not long before I started making videos. That was around the time that I was deciding on cutting my hair, and around the same time I was figuring out whether or not I wanted to make videos, and I decided, well, it would be a bit strange to film a video and then suddenly have short hair, so I waited until I was able to get my hair cut before I started making videos, which is also why there's such a huge length of time, or partly why there's such a huge jump from my video, The Tiger, which was technically my first video, even though it wasn't a video, and the ones I've done afterwards. Number 8. I have a huge collection of ribbons. Okay, maybe not huge, but like a pretty decently sized collection of ribbons. And back when I used to have long hair, I would wear them in my hair, or, you know, make like a little necklace or something like that. But Now I've just started using them as like either like a headband to sort of tie it around. Like I think you've seen in some of my first few videos I was doing that. And sometimes I'll make like a little woven bracelet or make it like a little bow tie or something, depending on what I feel like doing. But yeah, just something that I started collecting in high school when I would like get presents and take the ribbons off of them. Number 9. I've been waltzing, so doing like ballroom dance, for about 4 or 5 years now. Most of what I've been doing has been waltz, but I also know polka, swing, tango, and blues. But yeah, ballroom dance is a pretty big part of my life. I really love it. I wish it was something that I could share with you guys, but because of the nature of it, like, I can't really think of a way that I can share it in a way that would fit in with the whole ASMR thing. But it's a lot of fun. I didn't even know there was such a huge social dance scene until a friend of mine invited me to a dance, and it was a lot of fun. I highly recommend you guys look in to see if there's a local ballroom dance scene, because you might be surprised. Alright, number 10. I am a huge fan of witty banter and I guess what's called Seinfeldian conversation. I don't know, I really hate small talk, so on the flip side, I end up really liking any sort of deep, meaningful conversation, even if it's not necessarily with someone I know very well. It can be really fun to have like a really deep philosophical conversation. And on the other side, I like having conversations that are about things that are interesting but ultimately useless. I used to have a friend of mine where we would go back and forth and say just useless facts to each other just for fun, and I don't know, I really like that sort of thing. Number 11. Sometimes I will obsess over a certain food or snack. I really like certain foods, and I'm kind of picky with the kinds of foods that I like. So when I find a food that I really like enough that I want to have a lot of it over and over, and I feel like I'm not going to get bored of it, then I kind of get attached for a while. So, for a while in college, I would always get these big Toblerone bars and just break off a piece and eat when I was studying, or like pita chips and hummus are another favorite snack of mine. Most recently, I discovered that Trader Joe's has this really good mango ginger chutney, and I've been eating it with like shrimp and with chicken, and it's just so good. Number 12. In case you couldn't already tell, I am a total kid at heart. I like a lot of really simple, some might say childish things. I mean, just earlier I was talking about stuffed animals and ribbons, so I think you can kind of see where I'm coming from with that. Alright, number 13. Is it 13? So, both of my parents worked in biology-related fields, so from a really young age I was exposed to that sort of like science. I would always be asking them about what they're doing at work, and they usually couldn't explain it to me because it was usually really complicated. But because of that, science is a pretty big part of my background, particularly biology, and even though I'm not necessarily going into a biology-related field, it will always hold a special little place in my heart. And because of that, I do want to do more like science lesson type videos. Like I did my organic chemistry video and that seemed to go over well, so we'll see where else I can go with that. 14. Although I don't really create visual art, I do see myself as someone with a really artistic mind, and I think that's why I got into poetry, is because I have these very vivid mental images, but I don't really have the patience or coordination to like draw them out or paint them or anything like that. So I sort of ended up turning to writing, and I guess I don't really do like photography type stuff as much as I did when I was in high school, but that was another sort of outlet for me, and I don't know. I'm hoping that I can use these videos in and sort of grow creatively a little bit. I've already sort of started sketching out ideas for like other roleplay videos and other things where I can try and be more creative than just talking at a camera. So, alright, 15. When I was in elementary school, I read a book, and I don't remember the name of the book now. I think it was like a Mickey and Minnie type book, but it took place in Venice, and I read about the fact that there was this mysterious European city where people use boats instead of cars, and it's just become like almost like a symbol of this just this very romantic idea for a place to visit. And I've learned since then that the city itself is not as romantic as it's made out to be, or so I've been told, but I still really want to go there, and it's been a place that I've wanted to go to all my life, just because it's so full of history and art and architecture. And even though it's the boats that kind of drew me to it, I still really want to visit for those reasons. 16. This may be something that's become a little bit obvious by now, but I am not really the kind of person who will become an expert at one thing, so much as I'll sort of delve a little bit into many different things. I really like the process of learning a new thing, or, you know, just getting into something new, and because of that I'll kind of go a little bit into a thing, and then a little bit into something else. And a lot of the times those things tend to be like involved in the geek community, and because of that it's a little bit like I don't feel like I'm part of one sect of the geek community like a lot of people are. Like, there are people who are just total sci-fi nerd, they know everything sci-fi, they've seen all of, you know, Doctor Who, Red Dwarf, whatever. There are people who are total comic book superhero fans. They have read all these comic books, and they have, you know, are familiar with everything that's ever happened to Batman ever in the history of ever. And I'm not really quite there. So, like, while I do like sci-fi, I do like fantasy, I like superheroes, I like comedy, art, pop culture, all sorts of different things, but I will never really be an expert in anything. And while that becomes a little bit strange, at the same time, I have such a wide variety of friends because of it, and such a wide variety of experiences and knowledge, so I don't know. I kind of like it better that way. Alright, 17. So, while I wrote a little bit of poetry in like middle school, I never really started writing slam poetry specifically until 10th grade, and that was because when I was in 10th grade, my English teacher decided that instead of having a final exam, our classroom would have a little class poetry slam. And he was kind of one of those teachers who did things a little bit differently, and I really appreciated him for that, even though it became a little bit frustrating sometimes, but he introduced us to the concept of a poetry slam, and we held one in class, and I read a poem, and it didn't do very good because, you know, I was in a room full of high school students and not in a room full of poets. But before then, I had mostly written stuff that kind of stuck to a regular rhyme scheme, so the idea that poetry didn't have to rhyme, it just needed to sound poetic, was very new to me, and so I started writing stuff in that style from then on, even though I never really fully got into slam until college. That was sort of when that style influence happened. So 18. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but the college I attended had a very good slam poetry team, which is part of how I got so sucked into the community while I was there. And in fact, every year they would have a festival where they would narrow down the best slam poets, and the top 5 would be on the slam team. And 3 years in a row, I made it to the top 8. Even though I didn't make it on the team, I was in the top 8. So, I mean, kind of a humble brag, I guess, but I was actually pretty good and pretty well involved. And one of those years, my college actually did make it, I want to say 2nd place, might have been 3rd, but 2nd place, I think, in the nation, in the nationwide, it's called the College Union Poetry Slam Invitational, CUPSI. So, 2nd nationwide, so, slam poetry, pretty big deal. 19. While I do write prose as well as poetry, I don't know if I'm ever gonna really read my prose because, 1, it tends to be too long to read in a video, and 2, I'm not very good at finishing them. I have a tendency to come up with an idea and run with it for a little while until I either get distracted by something, or more often than not, I come up with another idea for something else and start writing that, whether it's a poem or another bit of prose. I do have pieces that I finished, but most of them are very long. I've done National Novel Writing Month in November a couple of times, and I've done it a few times, and I think I've actually completed it twice, and a 3rd time I finished the story before it reached novel length, so I have about 3 pretty decently lengthy, complete stories, but, yeah, poetry is kind of more my main thing, more so than prose. Number 20. I think I sort of brought this up in my things on my bookshelf video, but I'm not really a religious person. Even though I was raised Hindu, I kind of tend to sit on the side of agnostic atheism. And I don't know, I feel like it's a pretty big part of my life and of my opinions, and because of that I feel like I want to bring it up, even though I don't really intend on making that a big part of my channel, because I recognize that not everyone feels the same way that I do, and I do want to be respectful to other people's beliefs. 21. So, 21. When I was a kid, my family and I would go hiking a lot. It became kind of a big bonding thing where we would either go hiking locally, we would travel to, we went to Yosemite, went hiking there a lot, or around Lake Tahoe, or even when even when we went to Hawaii, we would go hiking. So it was kind of a big family thing, and happened a little bit less as I grew up. And then I went to a college which had some nice hiking trails nearby, so I did that a little bit more. And then now I'm doing that a little bit less, but I'm trying to get into it a little bit. So that plus ballroom dance is basically how I get my exercise, even though, I don't know, I'm not particularly good at going as often as I should, but I at least try and take walks around the neighborhood and stuff. I'm just not very good with exercise. Okay. So number 22. So in the year 2013, for a decent chunk of the year, I was in a relationship. And I do think I mentioned the guy that I was with in a few videos, never by name. I would just say, oh, this is something that a friend gave me, or something to that effect. And I bring this up because at a certain point in my poetry videos, I will reach the point in my poetry where I will be reading poems that are about him. And I don't know how soon that will be. I guess the guy that I was with wasn't really someone who, even though we were together for over a year, it wasn't a bad breakup. We're still friends, but I don't know, I felt like bringing this up would kind of make it a little bit more real, because I realize that the way that I talk about relationships and bring them up in my videos where I have poems about my relationships, it's so distant that it almost feels sometimes like telling a story. This might just be me watching back on the videos, but it feels like telling a story and not like a personal experience. So I don't know, it made a lot more sense in my head, but there you go. Okay, 23. This is something that I know I've mentioned in a few videos, but in case you've missed it, my dad passed away 4 years ago. He was a really big part of my life, a huge part of why I am the way I am today. He influenced my taste in literature, in poetry, in music. He was sort of a similar personality in that he was what I mentioned earlier, how I sort of delve a lot into various things. He was also like that. I have a video that I did for my father, which is a poem about when he passed away, as well as in my bookshelf video, I do show his books in it. So I know that I've mentioned him quite a bit, but he is such a big part of why I am who I am and why I'm, I guess, here. So I didn't want to go without mentioning it. Alright. 24. While I'm not going to give away my age, I am just going to say that I do tend to look younger than I really am. I do make a little bit of an effort to look my age, maybe less so in these videos because I'm usually just doing them by myself at home, but like when I go out I try not to just run around with like, I don't know, sneakers and t-shirt and stuff like that. Especially when I'm at work. I want to look like an adult, you know, but it doesn't always do that much good, especially considering that I'm only about like 5'3", 5'4" on a good day, so I am short enough that I have been mistaken for a high schooler. Alright, now 25. I'm finally going to tell you my name because I don't know if I've ever mentioned it in a video before, but my first name is Anisha. I'm not going to give you my last name because my last name is incredibly rare, but there you go. I'm probably still going to continue calling myself Turk in these videos, but now you know. If you made it to the end of this video, you know my real name, so ha ha ha, you have bragging rights. Alright, and that's it. Thank you guys again, especially if you made it to the end of this video. I don't know why you wanted to listen to me ramble for half an hour, but I hope you don't feel like you wasted your time. Alright, and I guess that's it. I will see you guys next time.